Welcome back folks and welcome to a new video. So today I wanted to talk more about Dragons Dogma 2 because I am genuinely excited and hyped for that release because the game is coming out on March 22nd, so we're getting kinda close to it. It's coming out next month. And my story with Dragons Dogma begins actually in 2015 when I started playing it for the first time. Now at that time I don't remember exactly what happened, but I wasn't playing it too much. Either I didn't have the time or there was something else involved, I wasn't sure. But like 3 years ago I had a podcast with another YouTuber, Click for Gameplay, which if you heard about, I definitely recommend checking him out. Amazing RPG videos, and there he mentions Dragons Dogma again. So after that podcast I got into the game again. I played it, properly now from the beginning to the end. And I'm going to be honest, it's one of my favorite action RPGs to date, and I wasn't sure that Dragons Dogma 2 is ever going to get released, and when I saw it for the first time I was like, yes, finally this coming out, because there is a very good reason why you should try out this game. So for people who have never played this game and kinda don't know what it's about, well, it's a combination of many things, and probably one of the two biggest aspects of that action RPG, number one would be if you played Monster Hunter, very similar to that in some sense, and second of all would be kinda Elder Scrolls stuff, exploration, finding different stuff, going around, finding different dungeons, different caves you're gonna be fighting those monsters in. But at the same time, one of the strongest features of Dragon's Dogma, for me at least, was fighting. At that time when I saw like, okay, I can do all of those things, initiate all of those cool attacks, grapple onto the actual monster, climb on top of him, hit him from this side, hit him from that side, and find those weaknesses. So from that standpoint, the combat itself was always really fun, because depending on which monster you're gonna be encountering, and you can encounter everything. That's the beauty of this world, is that it doesn't really put like monsters, okay, here is the level 1 monster, here is the level 2 monster, here is the level 3 monster you're gonna be getting now. No, in this game, as you explore, you can enter an area which is going to have monsters which are way above your league. So there is always this certain, how would I say, anxiety as you're going out throughout the map itself. And if I do remember correctly, Dragon's Dogma 1 was really skittish when it came to fast travel, so for a lot of things you actually had to go around and walk to reach a certain destination. Now keep in mind that Dragon's Dogma 1 I believe has two versions, so that's Dragon's Dogma 1 and the Dark Arisen one, which is the new version of that, improved one with various different things. So you can always kinda go and play Dark Arisen if you want to experience Dragon Dogma for the first time, but if you really want for that raw experience like it was originally, you can actually get Dragon's Dogma 1, the original one, and play through that as well. At that time I also remembered another game, Shadow of the Colossus, which was one of the most fun monster big boss fighting games I've ever experienced. If you never played Shadow of the Colossus, I really do recommend playing that as well. But that's one of the things which attracted me in the game itself, is because those attacks are going to matter, and those attacks are also going to be quite cool looking if you want that cool fighting style. But besides that, the magic system in this game is also phenomenal, because again you can use magic to the different advantage, combining different stuff, combining different vocations as well. And vocations in the world of Dragon's Dogma are classes basically, which you kind of go into depending on which thing you want to go for. And another really cool system, which I cannot wait to see how it's going to look in Dragon's Dogma 2, is the pawn companion system. So when it comes to pawns in Dragon's Dogma, so lore-wise, without spoiling too much for people who have never played it, you are arisen. So automatically you have a certain will which you can exhibit as a character, as whatever, you. But pawns don't really have their own will, so they're pretty much going to follow you, or well, they're going to be under you. And the second of all is that those pawns actually get experience if they're being used, and by experience I mean gaining actual useful experience. So for example, let's say you are entering an area with your pawns who have never been there. You haven't been there, you don't know which monsters you're gonna be fighting. So when you start fighting, your pawns are going to fight in a certain way. They're not exactly going to know how to fight, because you won't know how to fight that certain monster. You won't know the weaknesses, you won't know where to hit, and you won't know what the monster actually does and who that monster can target or attack or defend in that sense. But let's say you got a pawn, let's say from another player, which you can also do. You can basically borrow and take pawns from different players and they can take yours in that sense. It's not permanently, don't worry about that. But the thing is, if you take a pawn which has already been in that area and fought those monsters, that pawn is going to be useful because they will tell you, okay, look, this monster has this weakness, this monster fights in this certain way. Or if you watch out, for example, here is the stuff you can pick up around, which is going to be helpful for you because they know the area, they have been there. And you can actually see that expand in Dragons Dogma 2. If you saw some of the gameplay trailer videos, you're going to see like developers say, if you take a certain pawn from a certain area, they will tell you, look, if you pick up this plant, it's going to be good because you can craft something else. So there is actual knowledge which is being shared around, and just from that companion standpoint, it is phenomenal because it's not going to be some grunt which is following you around. It's going to be an actual useful companion with things which can be useful for you as well. Now, Dragons Dogma 2 elevates all of that, obviously, with a better graphical fidelity because the original Dragons Dogma came out in 2012, I believe, which is far away, which is like, that's basically when I started, you know, uploading on this channel, which was way back. So just having an updated Dragons Dogma in the terms of just the graphical fidelity, which it looks amazing if you saw the gameplay. I am just hoping that the PC version of the game is going to be polished well and it's not going to have issues with like frame rate and stuff, because it looks absolutely phenomenal graphically wise. I love just the artistic design of Dragons Dogma 1 and also Dragons Dogma 2. And I like that they're not really trying to make the game easier or trying to make it more streamlined for, let's say, new audiences, whatever it is. They're still trying to keep it as is, as the original was. And that's one of the things which I already noticed and it was described. So for example, there was a fight which was happening in the gameplay, so players were fighting a griffin. Now the thing is, after that, they went into rest, because there is also this resting mechanic where you sit down with your, different pawns and you just chill, you buff up and whatever. But that griffin returned later on to fight. So sometimes you're going to be fighting an enemy, you're going to drop that enemy to low HP, and that enemy is going to dip and maybe return later. So it makes sense. It's really well thought through because, well, those monsters, obviously, they can still have their own certain, how would I say, instincts, which they follow, which makes them more realistic in that sense. And looking at the combos, looking at the fighting system with the bow and arrow, with like the magic stuff, it looks amazing. So just from that action standpoint, if you want cool action, really cool fighting game, which has insane fighting mechanics, it's one of those games which you have to try out. Especially, I do recommend playing through Dragons Dogma 1 before Dragons Dogma 2 comes out, which you have a kind of a month until that happens. And also, it does seem that in Dragons Dogma 2, the fast travel system is still going to cost, a lot. So it's not going to be something you're gonna be using that a lot. And I know maybe for some people, the lack of fast travel all the time might be problematic. For me, it's okay because in any case, whenever you go out to explore in this game or you're trying to reach from one part of the map to another, you're gonna be meeting different stuff, you're gonna be fighting different enemies, and it's going to be useful because besides, fighting and collecting various resources from those animals, you're gonna be gathering stuff which is going to be useful for you later, which you necessarily wouldn't get if you were only fast traveling throughout the game pretty much. So I'm genuinely excited to play throughout the game and see like how can I combine different pawns to actually help me out, especially getting some of the pawns from different players. And that's the thing, it really depends which pawn you're gonna be getting, and each one of those pawns does cost resources, so it depends up to you how you want to approach the game and how you want to fight and experience and level up with that. So just having that system in general helps a lot because it makes things more streamlined, it makes things more realistic, and just combining all of those elements into one game worked really well for Dragons Dogma 1, and I'm pretty sure it's going to work well for Dragons Dogma 2. And especially if you like to play a mage, a sorcerer, whatever in a game, you're gonna love this, and you're gonna love Dragon's Dogma 1 because how the elements look and the magic looks when you cast it, and how grandiose it can actually look when it hits the enemy. One of the must-play games if you like magic systems, definitely. So Dragon's Dogma 2 is coming out, as I said already, on March 22nd on PC, PlayStation 5 and Xbox. Now, because, you know, this is Dragon's Dogma 2, I will probably be getting the PlayStation 5 version because it's a disc. I like having a disc, you know, having a disc these days it's quite rare, especially if you like, you know, to go into game preservation. With games being removed from Steam, from various other platforms, I will definitely be getting this on a physical disc as well, but, you know, maybe, you know, as well on Steam, because, you know, it's easier to record for me for YouTube off of my PC rather than PlayStation, but it's gonna be fun. So this is everything I have for today. I wanted to talk more about Dragon's Dogma because I will be covering this game more as we're getting closer to the release, and as, you know, when the game comes out, I will be talking more about it, I will be reviewing it, and we're gonna be going into various different things of the game, going from the pawn system to exploration to quests and all of that. So thank you so much for watching this video. Tell me down below if you played Dragon's Dogma, what do you think about it, and are you excited for Dragon's Dogma 2? But if you never played this game, again, this is one of those action RPGs which does have some jank. Like, I just want to say that, like, it does have its issues in Dragon's Dogma 1. There are some problems, but the positives outweigh the negatives, like, insanely much. So it's one of those games that if you like RPGs, you just have to play. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click that like and subscribe button for more to stay updated with all of the latest uploads I do, and also check us out on Twitter and Discord. Huge thanks to my current Patreon supporters, and as always, I will talk to all of you very soon in a new video. Bye bye.